Hello, welcome to our next session in the domain of B2B marketing with technology focus. We discussed in the previous sessions about sales promotion, marketing communication in the B2B domain, where we had seen the importance, emerging importance or growing importance of electronic media. From that discussion we went to the discussion on e-marketing, followed by discussion on e-marketplaces in the B2B context. I am now going to discuss this whole arena of B2B e-commerce in more depth over the next couple of sessions. So, B2B e-commerce signifies transactions between businesses conducted electronically over the internet, which is the World Wide Web, extranets, which are internal and external blended networks covering a limited and defined number of players, intranets, basically networks within an organization, which of course can be a spread out organization, nationally spread out organization. So, both extranets and intranets are private networks. So, both public networks and private networks utilized for commerce, utilized for business transactions will be covered in our discussion, which is B2B e-commerce, or more and more it will become simply B2B. I have taken number of diagrams from the Robert Vitale's book on B2B marketing. It had an interesting chapter on this whole domain of growing importance of electronic networks in B2B marketing. And you can see on this diagram that the growth that is happening year to year in terms of functionality, in terms of things that you can do through B2B e-commerce, and the architecture of the B2B e-commerce platforms are increasingly more and more sophisticated and elaborate, and this growth is very rapid. We have ended here at somewhere around 2005, but over the last 20 years or so there will be many things that would have been added to these stacks. So, in B2B e-commerce there are various kinds of parties who are involved. There are of course buyers and sellers, but then there are online intermediaries, like basically even this website can be an online third party that brokers a transaction between a buyer and a seller. So, in a sense the B2B e-commerce covers the domain of e-marketplaces which we discussed, which are like electronic representation of physical marketplaces or a dealer shop or even a full industrial market. The types of transactions that are now facilitated by B2B e-commerce can be spot buying, that means one single transaction where a buying or selling takes place, the purchase of goods and services as and when they are needed. It can be happening through a catalog, it can be happening through an electronic database of approved parties for a particular time for what we call MRO type of purchases, maintenance, repair, operational spares needed. And so, there can be catalogs which are formed out of rate contracts through which spot buying can take place, just 2 packets of printer paper for example. From that kind of simple one-off transaction, the B2B e-commerce can cover strategic sourcing, purchases involving long term contracts that are usually based on negotiations offline, long term negotiations, and then decided particulars. So, all of these types are feasible and regularly occurring instances in B2B e-commerce. The types of materials that are covered by B2B e-commerce today are direct materials, or which we are often calling incoming materials or entering goods. So, these are materials used in the production of a product. For example, special steel that will be used in making a car. So, that is a kind of entering product. It can be like printing paper getting into the book production facility. So, this is procurement of direct material covered by B2B e-commerce today. It can be indirect material, that means materials that are used to support production, we have called them facilitating goods. For example, lighting fixtures for a factory or industrial chairs or furniture for a factory or for an office. So, these are indirect materials facilitating goods. And then there are of course MROs, the maintenance, repair and operations equipment or products or components. So, these are indirect materials again used in the activities that support production, may not actually get into the end product, but these are part of the keeping the machines going, keeping the systems operational. So, MROs are also often components or materials, but they are different from the first category, which is the entering goods, because the entering goods actually participate in the production and are part of the end product. So, steel will be part of the car that will be produced, but a machine spare that is used to fix a malfunctioning machine in the production line of a car will not be there in the car itself, but it is a facilitating goods or MRO. There are two kinds of marketplaces that are covered by B2B e-commerce. This is, we are expanding upon the e-marketplace concept. So, one is vertical marketplace, that means markets that deal with one industry. So, it could be steel, it could be copper, other metals, chemicals and so on. So, these are vertical marketplaces, markets that deal with one industry or industry segment. Or it could be horizontal marketplaces, that means markets that concentrate on a service, material or product used in all types of industries. So, horizontal marketplaces will cover office supplies, computers or other IT accessories and so on. Obviously, that tells us that the B2B transactions are also of various types. So, one is sell side, that means one seller to many buyers. So, when Tata Steel is selling to many buyers, then in that respect the Tata Steel website is a sell side website. When the Tata Steel website is actually one buyer buying products from various kinds of office or factory consumable suppliers, then it is one buyer for many sellers. So, it is a buy side B2B EC. It can be exchange like many sellers to many buyers, which is a marketplace, and it can be collaborative commerce, that is communication and sharing of information, design, planning among various kinds of business partners. So, collaborative commerce is often set up electronically in a large project, or when a large factory is coming up or an infrastructure creation project, we will see the advent of collaborative commerce. So, diagrammatically they can be represented, again borrowing from Vitale's book, they can be represented like this, like the first diagram, sell side B2B, you have one seller and many buyers. The buy side B2B, which is in the diagram B, you have one buyer with many sellers, and then there are exchanges or marketplaces where there are many sellers, many buyers all connected. So, the business Amazon is an example of this, or OLX is an example of this, or eBay is an example of this. And then there are collaborative commerce where there will be a facilitated hub created for a large project, where there will be government departments connected, buyers, sellers, industry associations, local communities, even universities, all may be connected. So, that is another collaborative commerce, which is a kind of exchange, but there may be people involved connected in a collaborative commerce who are not really directly participating in the buying selling transaction, as is the case of an e-marketplace, but here there are policy makers, influencers, regulators, government bodies, communities and so on. So, one to many and many to one company centric transactions are there in B2B EC. So, company centric e-commerce that focuses on a single company's buying needs, it can be many to one or buy side, or selling, that is one to many or sell side, or it can be private e-marketplaces as will be created for a large factory, large project, where there will be combinations of buy side and sell side, and there may be other influencer or regulators involved. Then there are many to many, as we discussed just now, the exchanges, trading communities, and there are private exchanges or limited to members exchanges, or there are public e-marketplaces like eBay. So, these are actually exchanges that are open to all interested parties, sellers and buyers. So, there will be some form of qualification to establish your identity and genuineness, that you are not actually a robot or something like that, but otherwise these are pretty much open. And as we discussed, the collaborative commerce is more limited to a particular project or a large factory, where interrelated sub processes and roles, some of them are transactional roles, some of them are influence roles, all that are combined. B2B private marketplaces are providing companies with high supply chain power and high capabilities for online transactions. So, they are slightly different from public e-marketplaces, where there will be many to many transactions, there will be less degree of authentication or verification of credentials. Companies that choose an intermediary to do their buying and selling will be low on both supply chain power and buying selling capabilities. So, both of these characteristics can be displayed through the private e-marketplace and the public e-marketplace. And there are service hubs or service marketplaces that often go hand in hand with B2B industrial commercial exchanges, and those are like travel services, real estate, financial services, online stock trading, online financing and other online services. So, these are associated services in the domain of B2B EC. Benefits of B2B EC are quite obvious: eliminates paper and reduce administrative costs, expedite the cycle time. If you remember in the previous era, you actually once a particular requirement was determined, then the tenders had to be published physically, the tenders had to be circulated, the tenders were actually often published in newspapers and journals, and then there were physical responses. The physical responses had to be received and then secrecy maintained, tenders opened, public opening, then evaluation process. So, lot of time went into these physical communication activities, all that are made almost instantaneous in electronic domain. So, it lowers the search cost and time taken, increases productivity of employees dealing with the buying selling situation, reduces errors. So, on the whole, quality of services go up, flexibility goes up, just in time delivery, JIT as we call it, becomes much more feasible using the electronic platforms. Even degree of customization is feasible in the B2B e-commerce by way of producing modular options, which customers can pick and choose, and that way a machine can be to an extent customized for a particular application, for a particular sale. And these electronic platforms provide a much higher degree of collaboration. This sell side marketplaces that we talked about just now, I mentioned a little while back, it can happen by way of electronic catalogs, it can happen by way of forward auctions, the whole tendering quotation process and so on. It can even be used for one-to-one selling, either by participation of human beings or by participation of artificial bots. So, I will end with the one-to-many sell side marketplace or maybe I will go a little bit forward. In this diagram we have figurative representation of consumers on the left hand side, intermediated by the supplier's electronic store, which is basically a computer and a database. So, supplier's products catalog, customers order information, all that will be mediated by the computer system in the middle, and it will connect to business customers. So, the left hand side connected to the right hand side through the intermediation of information technology platform. Actually, today if you look at the websites of Tata Steel or JCB, you will understand that these electronic mediations make a lot more powerful contribution to the earlier physical interaction spaces, and a lot more sophisticated customer service, prompt customer service, prompt response to queries can become possible. For example, you can look at the website of this BigBoxx with double X, BigBoxx.com. It is based in Hong Kong. It is a B2B retailer of office suppliers. I highly encourage you to visit that website. They have no physical stores, entirely sells through online catalogs. So, large corporate clients, medium sized corporate clients, small and offices, home offices, they all access thousands of items from hundreds of suppliers using this platform. Excellent example of a blending of B2B, B2C, which I was alluding to in my previous session. So, in some sense it is serving all those hundreds of suppliers, trying to market thousands of their items, and it is also connecting those hundreds of suppliers with thousands of buyers. So, a large scale operation, which in the past would have been maybe a several multi-storied buildings spread out, covering all kinds of shops and all kinds of transactions, all become possible at the click of a button in the BigBoxx type of example. It is very attractive and easy to use. It gives tutorial to new users how to use the website, and once you have to register, of course, because in a way that registration ensures that real vendors and real buyers are interacting with each other, and once you are registered, then you can just pick up a shopping cart, which is again electronic, and you can shop through the website. You can browse using online catalog, you can search by using the on-site search engine, and so on. They use their own trucks and warehouses from where delivery can be made within 24 hours or even earlier, and everything is scheduled online. You can check the status, you can expedite delivery, everything is possible electronically. So, you see, this provides at the almost at fingertips, at the click of a button, it provides so much of value added service to the customer. So, the e-marketplaces therefore check people, help availability in real time, track the status of orders, they can sellers can create promotions, you can actually evaluate alternatives as a buyer, all kinds of approved or certified comparisons can be made available, and very interestingly, a lot of time can be saved by creating time triggered repeat orders or standing orders, as we call them, for repeat consumable purchasing, for example, in an office scenario. So, you can be regularly delivered printer papers based on the time period that you decide. So, that is it, our first session on B2B e-commerce, B2B e-marketplaces, the various formats, the sell side, buy side, platforms, all that we discussed, and we will continue on this track in the following session. Thank you.